Hey, welcome
Oh,
everyone. Oh my goodness. How is
man.
it going?
James, it is stressful over here. I don't know
Uh,
about you. we'll let
it
we'll let the audience know what's going on behind the scenes a little bit so everybody can appreciate it. So we'll be talking about building a .NET MAUI app in XAML, but I had my PowerPoint decided to freeze like 2 minutes before everything started. Craziness.
Oh my goodness. I love it. I love that everything went terribly. Did your computer freeze? Is your Visual Studio still working? What's happening?
It was Visual Studio that actually froze. So what I was trying to do was trying to build the app to make sure everything was just quicker while we were doing the demos. And all of a sudden I heard the fan turn on. And I was like, oh no, oh no. Here everything goes. And now it looks like the beach ball. I'm using a Mac. So the beach ball is gone right
Oh, that's
now.
good. That's good.
So it looks like things are kind of sort of responding. So maybe I can try to do it.
I like that. I
Yeah.
literally I literally ran. I had to run. I had to get coffee first, Matt. I was like, okay, I know that everything is going to heck over there for you, but let me go grab some coffee real quick. So I went and filled up the coffee, filled up the dog's water bowl, and then I get all these frantic text messages that come in from you. Then I grab my Mac right here. I got my Mac. So
Mhm.
now I have another StreamYard up. I have the YouTube channel up. I got the poll up. I got everything. But now your computer's working fine, is what you're telling me.
Well, we'll see. I'll run it. I'll run it for now, and we'll see what happens.
Oh my goodness.
I know. I'm
Um,
sorry. I know how you love getting the coffee, James. I know how much, and your
have
dog
it.
needs water. I mean, if
Microsoft
your
Word.
dog
Boom.
doesn't have water and she feels droopy today, it's all my fault.
Yeah, well, she's got
All my fault.
diabetes. She needs her water.
Oh
Um,
no. Oh, now
but
I
but
feel
she's
even
been good.
worse.
She's been stabilized. The sugar levels are all good. She's been drinking a lot
Good,
less
good.
water. Now Matt, I think is on a are you on a solo screen so you can't see anything right now? Is that what's happening?
I'm on a dual screen, so I
Oh, okay,
cannot.
you're good.
Well, but let's see. Let's see. Hold on. All right. Now I can see. Now I can
Okay.
see.
Nice. So Laurent has told us that it's 90 minutes, not 2 hours, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
But depending on technical difficulties, we might go 3 hours.
Oh my
So
goodness.
yeah, no,
No, I
no,
think
we'll
Laurent.
we'll do 90 minutes. We got it. We got it covered. But we have a special surprise at the end. So people have to tune in all 90 minutes until they hear what the special surprise is going to be.
And
And
if you
then
were
maybe we'll
here,
go.
yeah, if you were here last week on Wednesday, not on Tuesday, because we don't do this on Tuesday, we do it on Wednesday. What is the day? If you were here last week, you would know what that is. It's a
Yeah.
very special, super awesome opportunity. So
Yeah, for sure.
the Microsoft developer account is not staying for 3 hours. I don't know what else Laurent does, but he can hang out. You don't want to hang out with us for 3 hours? Come on. Who doesn't want to hang
Ah,
out? Chat comments. Who doesn't want
yeah,
to hang out with us for a while?
I know. I mean, you can learn
Jose
about.
doesn't want to. Oh no.
Well, you can learn more about XAML. Ask us all the questions about XAML. Then you can ask about all the technical difficulties that we go through like 2 minutes before the show starts.
Oh,
And it's worse because we get on a half hour before it starts to make sure everything works fine. And then like
yeah.
2 minutes before everything just
Classic.
goes, it just goes.
Well, Matt, this is part 2 of our 7-part series in Learn Live. Of course, what's going to be great is that you can follow along. If you haven't registered for those,
Mhm.
somebody will drop that in the chat somewhere. I don't know, some magical person back there drops those things down there. And basically, every single week, Wednesday, in fact, on Wednesdays at this time, they're here. Now, additionally, the entirety of this is like we're going to go through some slides. We have an entire learning path and journey that you can go on for learning to build multi-platform apps with .NET MAUI, the .NET multi-platform app UI.
Mhm.
And we did an intro session that I thought I had an extra hour on that we didn't finish. But that is everything is, if you're on YouTube's right now, if you're on the tubes of you, then this is the same exact video. Like you can watch this, you can pause it. If you come tomorrow, guess what, Matt? It'll
What?
be there. It's the same URL.
Whew. That's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like that Laurent has made the URLs the shortest possible. So aka.ms / learn live - mobile - desktop - apps - .net - Maui.
Well, at least you know what you're getting into. I mean, it tells you exactly what you want.
Well, what are we talking about today, Matt? Because I'm excited. I got my nice warm coffee, some
Mhm.
artisanal brew in a push button machine, and we're good to go. Well, not a push, just I would say like a normal just coffee machine is Zojirushi, but like not a Nespresso, even though I have a Nespresso. Not this is not sponsored by Nespresso.
All right.
But they make good affogatos.
I
You know
don't
what
know
an
what that
affogato
is.
is? All right,
I know a drip
affogato.
coffee.
This is drip coffee. Affogato is like,
Okay.
let's say it's like, 10 p.m. and you're like,
Okay.
I really want ice cream.
Uh-huh.
But then you're also like, I also really want coffee too.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, put those two things together.
Gotcha. Yep.
Yeah.
Now I know. But 10 p.m. you don't want to fall asleep then. So you get the sugar and the caffeine. Like,
here's the thing. When I met my wife for the very first time, we went out to coffee in Seattle at Vivace.
Mm-hmm.
One of the only coffee places that's open to like 11 o'clock at night. And it was 10 o'clock at night. And I got like an espresso drink. She's like, I'm going to get, not that. And then I was, asleep 2 minutes later. Like, we said goodbye and I was like, done, out. I'm like, I fall asleep immediately. I like the taste of the coffee, not necessarily the things. Anyways, we should not talk about coffee, Matt, because I'm sure the chat is going to be.
I know. Yeah, they're like, what are these guys doing? They're just catching up. They're just catching up. Mm-hmm. All right. So, all right, let's talk about creating a UI in the .NET multi-app user interface app by using XAML. Right? Here we go. Oh, you got to say hi to Katie. Katie's behind the scenes answering the questions. So say hi to Katie. She's taking care of everybody. She'll answer the questions. She'll pass them on questions on to us. And yeah, say hi to Katie.
Hi, Katie.
All right. And here we go. Follow along with us in the spirit of those short AKAs, AKA MS. Learn live dash 2022-0914A. Today must be the 14th.
That is the 14th. That's correct.
All right. And it's September. And A means, I'm not sure what A means. So we'll have to ask Laurent.
I assume if it's like there's another one going on today, that would be B. Yeah. Okay. There's a QR code. I like that.
So, yeah. Just scan that QR code.
Katie's in the chat. Boom. There you go.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Oh, and people can ask questions and we can see it. So we can ignore all the things that Laurent says. And then we can read all the chats.
All right.
Yeah.
Good. All right. So let's talk about what we're going to learn today. We're going to talk about the benefits of using XAML, of defining the user interface for a .NET MAUI app versus C#. We're going to talk about what you all can do with XAML, how to create and use XAML markup extensions, which really we're going to take XAML and we're going to make it even better.
Wow.
And you know what, James? We can take XAML and we can make it work differently depending on what platform you have. So whether you're working on iOS or whether you're working on Android or WinUI, you can make it do different things. Well, not the XAML itself, but what it produces does different things.
You're telling me that I can do anything.
You already knew you could do anything, but yes. Your XAML can do anything. Your app can do anything using the XAML.
Awesome.
Yeah, for sure. We're going to cover a lot today, but it's going to be a total fun session, and we're going to learn a lot.
And we're going to code, and there's going to be questions. There's going to be a whole thing. It's a whole thing, Matt.
Mm-hmm. So let's start off with building the user interfaces with .NET MAUI using the XAML. So really, .NET MAUI, it allows you to create. Oh yeah, you know what? You don't even have to use XAML, James. You could use C# if you wanted.
Oh, so so basically we're done. Just gone.
Yeah. So done. But also you could use XAML. So you can use it behind the scenes. Yeah, you can use it like in a .cs file. And that's all you need. And you could do it that way if that's what you wanted to do. But you don't have to necessarily do it that way if you don't want. You can do it with XAML, which is more of a declarative style, which kind of looks like HTML if you're used to that. But you have the same access to everything, whether you want the views or the layouts or the controls, pages, anything you can do in C# you can do with XAML, or vice versa, essentially. Nice. Yeah. So it's just the way you're building it. So they're really equivalent. But there are some benefits for one over the other. And before we get to start, how do you like that little XAML logo I put down there? I don't know.
Did you make that?
No, I didn't. I did a search and I found, just that XAML logo. And I think that's from XAML Studio from Microsoft like 10 years ago.
Do you know where XAML came from originally?
No.
Windows Media Center. So Windows Media Center, I could be wrong. Someone could correct me in the chat. And Laurent probably like, I know everything about XAML. But I started my journey with XAML, right? There was WPF, right?
Mhm.
And then UWP and then XAML Forms and then .NET MAUI and there. But actually, in the world of Windows Media Center, which is how I started my career building mobile applications, I built, iOS and Android and Windows apps that talk to Windows Media Center to do like live DVR recordings and scheduling, is you would build extensions, basically hubs in XAML-esque, I would say, there. And then Laurent can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's where it started from. I could be completely wrong, but at least that's where I remember my journey coming from in using this extensibility markup language. It's funny because couldn't it be EAML, because the X is like over there? No.
Yeah, emo. XAML sounds better. It has more of a, and maybe because of from XML. Well, that's probably where that's probably how it
is XML extensible markup language, but
Yeah.
it's extensible application markup language.
Yeah, so we push the A in there.
Yeah,
because XAML is a Microsoft tech. So yeah,
that's true. Oh, Ben is confirmed. Ben Buttigieg, Windows Media Center. I love it.
Yep. Anyways. And we love Ben. Ben is on our cat team. If it's the same Ben as you just said.
His YouTube icon looks pretty cool. He's got like glasses on. He's like, check me out.
Nice.
Yeah, that is definitely. There you go. Cool.
All right. And you're going to use, obviously we were just talking before and we've talked a lot about it. You're going to use this markup language to build user interfaces rather than code. And actually I got into XAML, I'm not sure when, but it was with Xamarin, which everybody always kind of thinks like, was XAML invented for Xamarin just because of the names, right? It's pretty close, but no, it's not, because XAML is used in Xamarin. It's used in .NET MAUI apps, what it used before, and it's similar to other Microsoft XAML flavors, but it's not the same. But you'll be familiar with it.
Yeah,
there's tweaks, there's differences, but
it's kind of like a XAML. It's like a Marvel universe, right? It's like it's in there, and there's characters that are maybe in sometimes an Avengers movie, but then sometimes not, right?
Yeah,
kind of like in their own little world. So they got little islands of uniqueness to them, basically. So there's a lot of similarities, but a little bit different, because when you think about it, building an app specifically for like Windows Media Center versus like when it was just Windows versus like something that's cross-platform, there's different requirements basically that those engineers were thinking of. Yeah.
Yep. So, but you'd be familiar. You get into it, it's like, oh yeah, that's not, the learning curve will be lower. Put it that way.
Yeah.
All right. And so what is a markup language though? I mean, well, it's a language that your computer uses that create a UI or other things, right? To introduce various elements. And the most famous one probably is HTML.
Markdown. Oh, no, that's a markdown language. Markdown. See what they
did
there?
Markdown would be like creating what is the difference between a markdown and a markup?
Markdown is like it's simplified, and then it has to create. So like it's the difference.
More verbose.
It's a down. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay.
Gotcha. I don't know, but yeah, this is it's a document basically, right? It's elements in a document. It's a DOM. There's a DOM, but there's a document outline.
Yeah. So it pretty much just tells whatever is going to parse it what to do.
Yeah.
Essentially. And so here we're just saying HTML or the web browser, you know what? Put that hello into a paragraph and make the word world bold. So it has like, kind of abbreviations for what you want the whatever's going to be displaying it or parse or interpreting it to do.
Perfect.
Yeah. So there's some benefits to using XAML versus C#, and we'll take a look, I think, in the next slide or two, what C# UI code looks like versus XAML. But C# code can be verbose. So XAML, the benefits are it's more succinct, and it's also what I find more readable because it's more visually coherent. So you can build a C# UI with things. They're kind of, you can make it where it's all over the place. Where XAML, it's more what you see is what you get, essentially. And you're also separating the UI from any behavior logic because you have a .xaml file, and then you'll have behind the scenes a .cs file. So they're kind of separated.
Yeah.
And it's really nice and easy to do MVVM with it, which we won't get into during this Learn Live, but in a subsequent one, we will get into. So,
Now, Matt,
mhm,
some folks will also say the vice versa of this, right? Which is some people think that C# is a little bit more visually coherent or more readable compared to XAML. And that's because everybody has different preferences and
yeah,
everyone's mind works a little bit different. So
that's true.
there are C# markup extensions for .NET MAUI. There are
That's
some
true.
MVU, model view update
Mhm,
styles as well. I just saw one called Reactor, MAUI Reactor, not to be confused with Microsoft Reactor, and Comet. Those are sort of
yep.
MVU, C# first. There's Fabulous for F#, which is a
Mhm,
code first. So if you want to do a code first, those are totally viable. I
yep.
do come from the XAML background, and my how my mind works, right? At least when I moved from WinForms to XAML originally with WPF, is my mind, it sort of clicked, right? It was like,
Yeah.
oh, I get it. I can actually bring those things together there.
Yeah.
Now, a good question from YouTube is there a way to convert between the two? Well, the nice thing that Matt said earlier is that, those, um, everything is kind of the same as far
Mhm.
as the naming and the properties and things like that. So if you had them side by side on a computer, you could easily kind of like convert them by hand. There's not like a tool, although that'd be kind of cool in general if there was a tool. But good question.
Yeah. And in an app, you can mix your C# code with a XAML page. You mean
Hmm.
you don't have to buy in to one of them.
Ooh,
I'm not sure why you would do that,
great
but you
question.
could. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a great point too. Is like, yeah, it's not exclusive.
Right.
It's an XOR. XOR. It's just an
Yeah.
or
Just an
and
or.
XOR.
Yeah. Yeah. Just an or.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Or
Yeah.
and
Whatever.
both. Yeah,
I don't know.
whatever.
Yeah.
Both. Okay. Yeah, exactly.
You can do it. You can
You could
totally
do it.
do it if you want to.
Yeah.
But as you said, there are some disadvantages
Oh,
in the XAML itself, in the XAML markup file, or is it mark? See, it got me all confused. It's the markdown file,
a markup file.
markup file. It can't contain any code, right? You don't have like how I think in Razor Pages you can actually put the code in. You can't put code into XAML
Correct.
itself. Like, so there's no loops, no conditional stuff like that, and you cannot. So what's cool with XAML, when the parser goes through it, it actually is instantiating classes. So like for a label, it's going through and doing new label, right? Just like you would do in C#. But if you had a view or something or a control, it needs to have a parameterless constructor in
Hmm.
order for the XAML parser to construct it, in order to make it. So you need to have whatever you're putting in a XAML, it needs to be parameterless constructor. So yeah.
Boom.
So yeah, let's take a peek. We'll build this little app over on the right-hand side
Mm.
and see what it looks like both in C# and what it looks like in XAML.
Okay. A little login screen.
Yeah, a little login screen. So hopefully the font here is large enough.
Let's make it bigger. Full screen this puppy.
Let's see.
You
Let's see
can't
if
do
I
it. Well, you
I
can. You
can't.
already are the
Yeah, I
producer.
already am, but
Producer Laurent.
can we
Click the
zoom?
button.
Can we zoom?
Do you have
Can,
accessibility turned on where you can like hold down on option then zoom in? Oh, there you go. That's fine.
oh no.
Oh,
Oh,
oh my goodness,
oh
it's
my goodness.
broken.
Yeah. Oh no.
Oh
Oh no.
my
Oh, let's just
gosh. Oh,
back.
geez,
Remember what I
Louise.
said about my computer? Yeah.
Anyways, you can see it. That's good enough.
Yeah, you could see it. So what you're doing there underneath the right up underneath the partial class main content page, which probably doesn't need to be partial at this point. But anyways, you're just doing button vertical stack layout. So you're actually declaring things here.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're doing layout equals new vertical stack layout, and you're setting all the properties, and it has a children property
Mm.
there. And so what you're doing is setting all the new stuff that you want to have displayed. So new label, setting its properties, new entry where you're actually going to enter a username, another label, setting the password entry box below it, saying it's a password. So you're going through and creating all this new stuff, and then you have a login button below that, setting the content to that label, which happened to be a vertical stack layout from way up top. And then you have a button, the login button, clicked handler.
Gotcha. Yeah, this
So,
doesn't
yeah,
look, too bad, right? It's like,
it's
hey,
not horrible.
you kind of got to know that there's like a children property. You got to know that
Mm-hmm.
for the margin and padding, you got to create a thickness, and of
Yep.
course, it'll help you a little bit as far as like what's on there. But yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So XAML, though, we kind of can shrink it down. And I like this better. And it is for me. So when I look at it, I can kind of see what's all there easier because I don't have all the news. And maybe that's what the difference is. I don't know. And you can see here, though, let's go back to the C#. Like for when I'm doing new label, please text, please log in. I could actually new that up anywhere. And as long as I put that in the children, it works.
Yeah.
So this is actually a pretty decent layout, so to speak. With the XAML, it's going to go here. It's going to go right underneath the vertical stack layout. That's where it needs to go. So I'm kind of forced to do it there. But yeah, so that's that same screen, that's what it's going to look like in XAML.
Yeah. So based on what you saw, right? If you're like, oh, I like the XAML markup, it's going to show me that sort of XML, especially if you're coming from the web and you're like actually, doing stuff today. There's a lot of similarities in general from just, HTML to XAML, and it's just different components. If you were to say each of these are a component, how really different is it? And then there's some special syntax, which we'll get into in the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's there. Now, as far as performance and stuff goes, we got a good question from the chat. Is they're pretty much the same because all the XAML is compiled. So I guess technically you could grab the C# from the compiled XAML, although I think it's all, probably not gets generated. So it's probably not like exactly what you want. But as far as performance, it's going to be pretty much identical because it's all compiled up, there. So there's really not, as far as I would say in 2022, creating this, there's really no difference in between the two, in general.
Yeah. So way back when I first learned Xamarin, I was doing, or Xamarin Forms at least, I was doing all my UIs in C#. But then I was afraid of XAML. But then when I learned XAML, I just thought it was less typing essentially, and I saw things easier. So
yeah. And then the other thing too is there's a lot of additional, in the XAML, there's a lot of IntelliSense that you get when you start to do MVVM stuff, which we'll get to in a future episode. And then, of course, there's a lot of nice things that you get in addition to that, such as compiled bindings and things like that too. So there's quite a lot in general. That's nice. But yeah, performance, pretty much the same.
Cool.
Yeah.
And, you do get that code behind file.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So this is a partial class, and it's going to be named mainpage.xaml.cs. And in a constructor, this initialized component gets called. And essentially, that's what's going to go through and create, as you were talking about, James, the parser is going to go through and actually create the page. It gets compiled and all that other good stuff.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Now, in the C# file that we looked at when you're creating the UI at C#, that doesn't exist.
There's no initialized component because there's no XAML to initialize, basically.
Yeah. So that's a XAML only thing. And we still have that login button clicked event handler, but we don't have that plus equal event handler assignment anywhere, because if we look at the button text, or the button way at the bottom where the text says login, we have a clicked handler there. And so the parser is going to take care of wiring all that up for us. So, but we still have to handle that in the the backing.cs file.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
It's a quiz time. I'm ready for a quiz.
Time. All right.
Quiz time. Now let's check.
All right. James, all right. I'm going to ask it. You're going to answer it. All right.
Okay. Here we go.
Yes, you can
go to aka.ms/polls. There you go. So everyone, you head there right now. This is where you're going to see it. It's happening in real time. Oh my goodness. All right. What's the question?
All right. So I emphasized this point just recently, but which method must you call in the constructor of a XAML page to make sure
app
it loads?
No. It's a page in the app.
It's the what do you have to load to make sure the XAML gets displayed?
That's a good
Or what do you have
question.
to call? Yeah.
Well, if you are in a well, being main page, that'd be very specific because this would be for, and you're saying for any page.
Any page that you want to display XAML on.
Well, it definitely can't be main page or configure app. That'd be shenanigans. In fact, everybody so far has voted 100% for A. Are they correct?
Yeah, they
Bum,
are.
bum, bum, bum. Look at that
Boom, super
animation.
correct.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Super correct initialized component.
Amazing.
That's what goes through and makes the XAML pretty in your app. Takes it from mark up to real thing.
Boom.
All right. So which of these is a major benefit of using XAML to define your UI? Does it run more efficiently than C#? Can you, or does it separate the definition of the UI from the logic of the app? Or is it more portable than C#?
Well, we did have that great question, which was about performance. And what did we say? They're the same. So definitely can't be A. Portable. I'm assuming by portable, they're talking about like being able to move it or embed it. So a thing about a C# file or a XAML file is you can put that into a class library. So you don't have to necessarily put that into, into a special thing. So they're the same. And in fact, everybody here, 100% of the votes are saying you can separate the definition of the UI from the logic of the app. Boom, bum, 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 bum. Now, I mean, I guess you could also in a C# file too, but I think it's very distinct, I would say, in XAML. Like they're very disconnected, and that's sort of the goal there in that style. Because with XAML, and when we talk about MVVM or model view model, you'll see that clear separation. There as well.
And that's what I have a little note as we talk about it, the event handlers a little bit more. Yeah, you probably MVVM, you kind of just skip all that. Where you do have that nice separation, whether you're doing C# or whether you're doing XAML. And that's pretty much probably what you should be doing because it does separate it nicely. All right, so let's talk about some types. Let's talk about some controls or whatnot and some properties then in XAML. Okay. So where are they? Where are the types defined? Where do these things come from?
Where are they? Where are they, Matt?
You know what? And that's actually a brand new feature in .NET MAUI is that the types have a theme song to them. That actually took a long time.
Is a label. Now this is fun because this label that you've created in your slides would not be visible because there's no text, which is great.
That is good call out. But it would have the text, had it existed, would have a color. But if it was on a basic page or the stack layout or whatever had the color, it'd be antique white. Very hard to see. Very hard.
Is antique white 255, 255, 100? Like, or did whoever wrote this module just that's way too complicated.
Nobody will ever get it. Well, it seems like antique white will be kind of, too little bit. I'm assuming antique white is like aged, a little bit more dingy than white, right?
Yeah.
So having that last one down to 100 makes it, makes it a little more dingy. I don't know.
Some people may be asking, well, why is it antique white and then why is it RGB? Well, that's a great question, and I'm glad that you asked in the chat. Actually, there is a type called colors, and you can do colors dot, and then there would be antique white. So you can actually set the text property in the C# to colors dot antique white. Now, the reason text color doesn't need to be in the XAML, although it says XML, so that's funny. I blame the converter, I guess. So we need to update those. And we prepared. So the one thing that's fascinating about that is that when the text color looks at that, it sort of does an implicit, and it says, hey, I know how to convert this color into a text color. Now you can't just put 255, 255, 100, I don't think, into the text color property, although I'm going to try that and see what happens and see if that is a thing, because that'd be really cool. Text color equals 255, 255, 100. Now, you can't do that, although that'd be really cool. But what you can do, that's my StreamYard. That's funny. So for example, you can bring it back up. Now I can see it, Laurent. Now everyone can hop into our StreamYard. You can't do this, right? But you can do, okay, I have another computer where I can see this. You can do this. You get all these nice little drop downs here for the text color. You can see that there, which is quite nice as well. And those are all the colors. Now, again, like if I said, if I went and you get a little, look at that, you can see what it is. There it is right there. Now, if you did go into like anything here, you could, like I said, say colors dot, and then there's the antique white. So there's the same colors there. Now, in a future episode, we're going to be talking about like, well, what if I want to use a custom, color here? And I did want to do like 255, 255, 100. How would I access that from the XAML? And we'll talk about that when we talk about resources and styling applications, but we're not there yet. Matt.
Right.
Let's head back over to your slides.
We're going to kind of sort of talk about that today. But
okay.
Yeah, kind of sort of, but it'll be better handled when we talk about resources and styles. So we'll kind of touch it.
Yeah.
But
yes.
Yeah.
Laurent wants to know if I can do this, which would be FAEBD7. Yeah, you can do that. You can put a hex code in there. That is correct.
Yeah.
So because so this is magic in XAML. So XAML kind of has the concept of built-in converters. It has the understanding that I can convert this type of string or this value into a color. So good point, Laurent. I'm glad that you put that in the thing and go from there. So cool.
Yep.
Let's head back over to you. So let's continue.
Cool. All right.
60 minutes left, Matt. 60 minutes
60
left.
minutes left.
Not 90.
Not 90. We got the warning. 60 minutes. All right. And everybody, we had some foreshadowing there in the conversation, just so you know. All right. So what's a XAML namespace? All right. Seriously, it is really close to what you would see a namespace, whether you're doing C#, whether you're doing VB. It's a .NET namespace, right? It's a way to bring types in the XAML, essentially. Yes. So let's take a peek at this. So you're going to see XAML namespaces are prefixed with XML NS. XML NS, not XAML NS, XML NS. And this goes back to the fact that XAML is pretty much a derivative of XML. Okay. Yep. And so the first one here, and James, correct me if I'm wrong, the first one is saying, all right, bring in the namespace of all the .NET MAUI, like views and controls and all that. And the second one is bringing in all of the Microsoft defined XAML components, like an int or stuff. Am I right?
All correct. Right. Yeah. So if you look at the first one there, the XMLNS equals, notice that there's no colon there with a name. So actually the second one has the name of X. So if you did X colon, it would bring up int, string, all the other things, arrays, basically types that are available from that namespace. So what that means is when we put label, we didn't have to append it with MAUI colon label because that namespace is the default. It's brought in by default automatically, which is nice.
Cool.
Yep.
So what we do then is we have class 2 or actually this is when I actually wanted to talk to about the .x one.
Yep.
Or we can do, if we wanted to have our own namespace in there, let's say we were doing a Monkey Finder app and we had a namespace for view model and we want to have our view models all brought in.
Yes.
We can do XML namespace colon view model. And then when we wanted to set the data type, which happened to be part of the X namespace, which was that Microsoft defined namespace, we would do view model colon monkey view model.
Yeah. And this is cool because if you're a library creator, let's say you're like Syncfusion, Telerik, whatever, you're Matt Sokup, and you're like, hey, I'm going to build my own library. Instead of having someone to bring in the namespace, find the DLL, you can actually mask it and say, here's my URL that kind of like brings in the namespace. It's kind of cool. And that's what the .NET MAUI team does. But if I'm in my own code and I'm like, I need to access a model or I need to access a view model or some other class, this CLR, common language runtime namespace, is saying, hey, there's a namespace in this class, in this assembly that is monkey finder view model. And then IntelliSense helps out there too. Now, additionally, let's say you have a model or some other class that you want to bring in, some namespace that's in another DLL. It's in another class library. It's somewhere else. You can tell the XAML what DLL to like go look at as well. And the IntelliSense helps you out automatically, which is very, very cool. So you can do it inside your class or in another class. So that's really nice. If you're sharing code let's say between your .NET MAUI app and like an ASP.NET Core web API backend, you can share code between the two of them, which is awesome.
Yep. And I think the syntax really is like :assembly equals or something like that. We can, cool. All right. So specifying properties, we've looked at tons of the properties down at the XML. You know what's getting, you know how that picked up the XML instead of XAML?
Yes.
Is that everything that this is picking up right from the learn module, and the learn module is written in markup
down,
and it's just whack, whack, whack XML.
Yeah.
And that's how it picked it up. Anywho, the setting a property is just text equals or text color equals. So it's real easy to set a property. Kind of same thing in C#. You know, you're just doing text equals or text color equals. You'd be straight at home and doing that. But look, text color equals black. And we were kind of talking about that before. Black isn't necessarily a string type, is it?
No.
It's not. No, it's not. So how do we take care of that? We have a type converter to take care of that. And background, when the parser goes through it, it says, oh, I see that text color isn't a string type. But I'm going to take care of it for you.
I got you.
I got you. Same thing with font size. That should be an int. Got you.
Got you.
On attributes, not strings, not a comma separated string value. I got you. I know what to do with that. So there's built-in text converters, and we also can create our own had we wanted to.
I like that.
Yeah. Cool. All right. And then we can do complex type assignments. And what's a complex type assignment? Like a tap gesture recognizer, where we're setting a whole other class within our class. We're within our, essentially within our class, like within a label. So we want that label to respond to taps. Let's put a tap gesture recognizer in it. And what it is, what's the name? Attached properties, right?
Attached properties,
I can just do attached property and then pop that in there as well. So we won't actually get into defining or how to build up an attached property. That's a little bit beyond the scope of what we're going to talk about today. But anytime you see class name dot, like gesture recognizers, or a lot of times you would see that with the grid view, where you see grid. Somebody changed it to XAML behind the scenes. Good work.
Me.
Or grid dot like column. That's a attached property, and it's making it it's like a property for a complex type.
Yeah, and that's pretty cool, because when you think about it, what's actually happening there is that it is creating an entire new object, right? It's creating that tap gesture recognizer automatically. So how do we create one, right? So how are we assigning it into this array, basically, of these tap gesture recognizers? And there's other things, right? So you can actually add a shadow, for example, to any control. So you can say label.shadow, and then you create a new shadow. So it's kind of similar as if you were creating it inside of C#, but it enables you to do it inside of XAML. Like we were talking about, like, hey, can you basically do similar things in XAML or C#? The answer is yes. Yeah.
Yep. For sure.
Nice.
And this is where XAML kind of gets verbose.
Yeah.
So I said XAML wasn't verbose. Well, it kind of can get verbose when we start getting here.
It can.
But still like it. Still like it. All right. And then we also have default content properties. So like the vertical stack layout.children here is a property.
I've never used that in my entire life, ever.
And you don't. And you know why you never, ever used it?
Because of default content properties.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's the parser knows it has your back again. It says, you know what, James, whatever you put inside the vertical stack layout, I know that you want it inside the content property.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So this is equivalent to that, the .children, but I got you. And so, you would never do it. So, you know what time it is?
It's knowledge check time. Gonna check your knowledge.
All right. Type converter. What does that do? What does a type converter do?
Converts types.
Yeah. Does
All
it
right.
convert a XAML description of a page into the equivalent C# code? I don't know.
I don't
Does
even
it
know what that. I don't even know what that means.
does it? I don't know. Yeah, that'd be like,
Oh, that's like when you compile the XAML.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. No, it probably doesn't do
This
that.
is what the question was. And so can you convert it from C# into XAML? Wow, that'd be crazy. That's the inverse of
Yeah,
it's reverse XAML compilation.
yeah. And the B is the exact opposite, right?
Yeah.
Convert C# into XAML.
Wow.
No. Although it'd be kind of cool if somebody made it like that. You know, I have like a little app that did that for you
Well,
for whatever reason. And then so we eliminated A and B. So it must be used to convert a XML attribute to its correct type.
100% of the people, all 20 of them have said that. C, and people in the chat are
Cool.
saying C. Boom, we did it.
Yep.
Bum, bum, bum. Everyone's so smart.
All right. How do you bring the your custom types into scope within a XAML file?
Heck if I know.
Yeah. So we're talking namespaces here because that's where your custom types are, your custom classes. So how you bring them in? You're
Well,
not using. Oh, go ahead.
You can use XML namespaces of the page, give the namespace that contains a custom type an alias that you can reference. That sounds familiar. Add C# using directive to the XAML file. That doesn't make any sense. It can't be B. Apply the X field modifier. We didn't even talk about that. So it can't be that. It's got to be A. What does everyone say? Oh, someone said C. It's definitely A. Boom. XML XML namespace.
Yep.
Boom.
Boom.
Cool.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about event handling.
Let's do it.
All right. So you got to do event handling a lot of times in XAML. What happens, how we put the clicked handler, we need to have it behind the scenes in order to handle it. And well, there's actually two ways you can do it through. And there's a lot of text here. Let's just show an example.
Yeah.
There's two ways you can do it through with XAML.
Okay.
You can do the X name counter label, right? So you're giving it a name. And so by giving it a name, you're able to access that label. We have a name, and then we have, or you can do this way. So I'm not sure why we even have this. Anyways, or you could do it this way.
I feel
So
like
when you say,
I feel like it's missing something. Okay.
yeah,
let's swap over to my machine over here. Okay. So cool.
All right.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. So here's like counter button, right? So when you do this, right, and we also see that there is this too. If I go into the code behind it, the XAML page, which is right over here, we can see that automatically, as long as this is set up for me, and if I was to come in and if I was to add another button, right, and I just say clicked, and then I say new click handler, it'll automatically create that click handler for me in the code behind. There it is. So this is the definition of object sender, and it just gave it button click, just a generic name. Now, this one was set up in the template. So it says, on counter click. So if I didn't have this namespace, that's totally fine. This would compile just fine in there. But what if I want to access that button, or I wanted to do it manually? Well, I add this x:\name counter button. And that is basically the same as me coming in and saying var button, button, counter, equals new button, but I'm doing it from XAML. So I'm giving it a way of exposing it to the code behind. So if I wanted to, I could say now counter button dot clicked plus equals, and then here I could say on counter clicked, and I could say, hey, do that, right? So I can do it manually, or I can do it here. Now, the nice thing is when the page is disposed over here by .NET MAUI, if I do it here, it's not going to be able to like disconnect that, but it'll automatically disconnect it here because it knows how to dispose of that clicked event, from my understanding at least. I'm not a garbage disposal expert. So there we go. That's the ways of doing it. Boop, boop. Now, also, I would say like this is nice because if you did need to access it, let's say you weren't doing any MVVM, you can just access that button here, and we're updating the label here. Now, technically, it's passed in automatically, so you don't even need to do that. You could technically say, var b equals button. We know it's a button, and we know that the sender is passing it in. Or you could do like, button, sender as button, and then be like, if b is null, then return, is null. So that's a common pattern too. Is like, there. In fact, check this out. I wonder if I can. Well, oh yeah. Why would it tell me to do that? I don't want to do that. I was gonna say if it was gonna enable me to do some pattern matching. That's cool. Look at that. Sender is not button B, and then it would cast it as B. Wow, amazing. And then I could do B. If I didn't want that hard, if I didn't want to put in that work of exposing it, I don't know how to. I'm hitting B. There you go. You can do that too. So that's the same code basically. Amazing. Wow, that's crazy. Anyways, there you go. Learning.
Amazing.
All right. 45 minutes left. Let's move.
All right, here we go.
Back to your slides.
Back to the slides. Back to the slides. Here we go. Perfect.
Cool.
All right. Long story short, separation of concerns. Probably at the bottom. Use MVVM.
Yeah.
Tune into a future Learn Live. You saw all the stuff that James was going through, right? You have to hook up. You got to do the click event. You can do it in XAML. You can do it. You can do a button name, dot, click, plus equals, do it there. You do it that way, you could have multiple click handling of methods for the same event. And then you have to unsubscribe to all of them. Use MVVM.
Boom.
Boom. All right. Well, cool. Quick knowledge check. And what? We didn't go through all the slides either. So this actually might be you can handle it. You handle it. All right. What are the parameters passed to an event handling method?
Oh, I just talked about it a second ago.
Yeah, you did.
If you remember what my code looked like.
So was it the name of the event and the name of the control that named the event?
I don't know about that because I had to do some magical parsing and stuff like that. What's the next one?
All right. So it was a reference to the XAML page and the control on the page that raised the event.
That seems weird now. I don't like that.
No. How about a reference to the control that raised the event and an event's args object that contains any additional info?
That seems legit. In fact, the chat says so too.
Boom. Here we go. Got it.
Yeah. If you remember, I was getting that object sender and then event arguments that were being passed along with it. There you go.
Yep. Cool. That's right. So let's say we're all behind in C#. We got the control in XAML. We're going up behind in C#. How are we going to subscribe to event? Use plus equal. Use a subscribe or it's not possible.
It's impossible. Definitely can't do it. It's impossible 100%. I didn't just show it a second ago.
Yeah.
We got 99 or 91% of votes coming in at A. Plus equals.
The green box says A. Yeah.
And then you can unsubscribe with a minus equals. That's how you're doing this. Cool.
And you see a lot of code that doesn't unsubscribe, including mine a lot of times. And bad stuff
programmer.
Happens.
Bad programmer, Matt.
Yep. All right.
Animation. Oof,
yeah. All right. Cool. So we're going to create the first XAML page. All right. And so we are going to live on the wild side. We're going to see if my Visual Studio
works. Okay.
So what's happening is that I am using Visual Studio for Mac, the super internal preview. So with that, you get a lot of, you live on the wild side a lot. So the first thing I'm going to do, James, and we noted this yesterday, single project, right? Everything's underneath one project and you have everything, all the platforms. And so one thing that I was trying to do yesterday when I needed to do a clean was I was trying to clean on the project. What you should do in order to get a really good clean is clean on the solution.
Weird.
And
previews.
So, previews. And I'm not sure if it's because of it's a preview or if that's just something that's normal, but I was getting tripped up because previously you had projects for each individual platform, but here you just have one. And, my small brain was saying that one was actually the solution, but the solution was very up there. So anywho, clean and successful. So let's go. Let's actually try to build something. And so if you're following along at home,
yes,
I am going to our unit here.
Okay. I'm following along at home.
Yep. And then I am going all the way down to this exercise. Create your first XAML page.
I'm ready.
All right. And so I'm going to put this back off screen and I'm just going to really kind of copy paste things over.
Okay.
All right. And so let's review what we have in here. And I'm going to open up. You can see that everything's like app.xaml, app shell.xaml. But let's just, and it's okay. So let's just go back to what we were talking about last week. Oh,
Oh,
well,
no.
it
Oh,
worked.
there you go. Oh,
It
there you
worked.
go.
All right. Okay, good. So we have like the app builder pattern here where we're going create a new Maui app and it's saying build. So this is stuff we talked about last week. And then we're loading up in the app.cs. We're just saying, all right, our main page is the app shell page. And then over here, we're saying shell content. What we want to display is our main page.
Perfect.
And then we're getting to the main page. Main page.xaml is nothing.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I know. So that's what we're going to do. Actually, right here, we have all our C#.
Well, okay, so
page.
here is a
Yeah.
cool example. It's like here's the C# version of it, which is pretty verbose.
Yes.
And if you run this, it would actually create that, right? Because it's not even going to load the XAML.
Right. Exactly. Wow. So I cleaned, and I'm not going to run it quite yet.
Okay.
So I'm going to bring this web browser back in, and that's what it's going to look like.
Nice.
If I had run it.
Okay.
Label, another label entry, 2 buttons.
Perfect.
All right. So we're going to stay on track for now. So what I am going to do, though, is I'm going to start recreating everything, but in XAML.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. So let's take a peek. Let's take a peek at this. Right here, this is what the UI is going to look like, right? So we have a vertical stack layout. We have a label. We have the editor with a little placeholder in there that says enter your no. And then we're going to put a grid there with 3 columns.
Okay.
It says rows. Should really say columns. Yeah.
Oops.
Who did that graphic?
I did.
All right.
It was me.
But anyways, column 0, save. Column 1, spacer, push it over. Column 2, delete.
Perfect.
So that's what we're going to use.
Cool.
That's how we're going to build it up. All righty. So let's build it up. So we're going to create a XAML version of that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go all the way down. And I'm going to comment all this out.
Oh, my goodness.
Save. Yeah, I'm going to save that. I'm going to comment it out up here too. I'm going to save that. Oh, and check this out. We also have the on save button handler and on delete button handler.
Okay.
And I'm going to comment those out. And that's because right here, and what I'm highlighting is that delete button in C#, we were creating it and assigning that on delete button click to it using the plus equals. Same thing over with the save button. So when we were creating that UI, we were doing the plus equals assignments. So you can use that plus equals in C# as well as XAML if you had wanted to.
Okay.
But we're going to do it all in XAML. Let's do it. XAML.
Perfect.
Blank page. Clean slate. Here we go. And so first thing I want to do, you just note that we have the XML namespace.x.
We're going to make the code a little bit bigger.
We're going to make the code a little bit bigger.
Oh, there we go. Now we're talking.
Oh, that's awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So here we go. First thing we're going to do is we're going to put that vertical stack layout in there. And I'm copying code over because I would mistype everything.
Yes.
All right. So here's our vertical stack layout.
Perfect.
And you can see we're just setting properties here. And this right here is not a string property. We're using our type converter to, was that a thickness?
Is the thickness. So what is that that's telling it is, so there's a stack layout, a vertical stack layout, and a horizontal stack layout. We're going to get into those in a future Learn Live episode because I rewrote that course recently. But vertical and horizontal stack layout are optimized. So this is going to vertically stack things here and figure out the spacing and the sizing automatically. Now margin is going to say, hey, be so far away from the sides, basically. You could also use padding. On this case, it'd be the same. But regardless, the margin is going to start at the left. So it's going to say 30 density pixels. I'm going to say density pixels. They're not pixels, but they're scalable pixels, basically. I come from an Android background, so density pixels-esque. But 30 is going to be from the left, 60 from the top, 30 from the right, and 30 from the bottom. You could also, for example, just put 30, and that'd be 30, 30, 30. And you could also do 30, 60, and that would be use 30 on the left, 30 on the right, 60 on the top, 60 on the bottom. So it's very flexible. Yes.
Gotcha. All right. So next thing we want to do is we want to put that notes label. The next thing that goes down is going to be the very top element in our vertical stack layout.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're saying, all right, make it center, make it bold as well, and say, all right, it's going to be notes. That way we can see it. And we just go on. We just go on and put the next thing in is going to be our editor. So we can actually enter our note. There we go. Again, we're getting that placeholder. So it says enter your note. So we get all the beauty of various controls. Like, so iOS, you have a placeholder. Android, you have a placeholder for the editor. And we get it right here in
Good question came in from the chat. Is there a live render of the UI? Now, you're not running the application, so
I am not running the application.
So if you were running the application, there's XAML hot reload, which would enable our good friend Matt Sokup to run the application and actually see it update in real time as he's adding these elements.
Yes. And I would do that, except my machine is very finicky and I don't dare do that. But you totally could.
But we showed that last week as well. And we'll do that in the future when I'm over on my Windows machine and Matt's machine isn't completely on fire.
Yeah. So. All right. And so here's another one for column definitions. We're going to do a grid at the bottom where we're going to eventually put our buttons within it. And column definitions right here, we're telling it what the columns should be. And we have like, whoa, auto 30, auto, that doesn't make sense, right? And so what auto is saying, use what you need to use for the button size. 30 meaning give me 30 density pixels, as James is calling it. So just kind of like a space. And then auto again saying, give me what you need for the button size for it. And there could be star. There could be, so I could actually say like 30 star, give me 30x of things. And so there's a bunch of different things you can do for grids. And we'll cover that a little bit more, I believe, in the next, episode here.
Yep.
And so we'll put our first button in there. And you can see what we're doing right here. This attached property, we're saying, put this in the 0 column or the first column. And then we're going to put our second button in right below it, or actually right to the side of it, because this is a grid and we're putting them in the columns. And number 2 or number 3, because we're 0 based. And 2 things to note here. We're doing our clicked on save button clicked and another click on delete button clicked. So cool.
Perfect. Now, there's a few things here that we'll talk about. There's a lot of flexibility. We're using a grid here just because that's how this module was set up. So you can learn about grids and you can also learn about stack layouts. You could also not have 3 columns. You could have 2 columns and you could put a column spacing and you can set the spacing to 3 if you want 3 in between all of them, right? You can set row definitions and row spacing as well. You could have also put this into a horizontal stack layout and you could set the spacing to 30 in there. So there's a lot of flexibility based on what you're doing. You could have done this entire UI with one grid as well. So you could have had a grid with a bunch of rows and a bunch of columns, XYZ. So a lot of flexibility here in general.
Yep. And that's the thing where you kind of, where that little photo or that, I'm going to bring it back on screen. This right here is getting at where you kind of want to sit down and think, what's the best way I can do it? And and so here, just for the sake of showing different controls, we decided to go like this.
Cool. Now you have things on separate lines in general, right? I want to kind of walk through this. That's not required. You can see grid and an editor and some of the things are on the first line, but Matt, you could say for that button, for example, you could put it all on one line. So you could really collapse that down if you wanted to. There's also something called a XAML styler extension. That's really cool. I have that in Visual Studio that automatically like do stuff, but you can do that, right? You can automatically do that. So you get that IntelliSense. So you can decide how many attributes you want. So it doesn't matter. White space doesn't matter in this context. So you can really, even though it looks a little bit more verbose, it's just because all those different things are there.
Yeah.
Now
just showing all
your stuff. And there's events. You can see the little lightning bolt as an event. There's properties that are in there. Now, the other thing is that someone was asking the name. So that editor, you said x:\name. And the reason it's not just name is because that specific, that sort of like attribute or property on it of name and exposing it comes from the original XAML markup. So that x:\name is there. So if you just type name, it wouldn't exist because name isn't on editor. It's actually at a fundamental level underneath every single control inside of .NET MAUI. So that's
Yep.
the X colon name. And there's other X colon things that we'll talk about as well, like X colon data type that you talked about in MVVM. Yep.
And what's cool is that we can do like background color, and you can see them all pop up.
Boom.
And what I also like, it gives you that little square showing you what color it is. So we have to do antique white.
Perfect.
And it is. It looks a little gray or drabby. All
there
right.
You go. Is that it?
So, yeah,
wow.
That's it. Shoot. And then let's go to the background here. Still there. And what I'll do, it's not red squigglied. So my editor.text, because we named it, as you said, James, we were doing the X colon name, not red squigglied. We should be good.
Now, before you run it, because this isn't going to work, because I know it's not going to, is that if you look at the top of the file, what are the things that we had a quiz on? You need to initialize your component, sir.
Aha. Good call out.
Yes.
So what I'm doing, though, is I'm building to make sure
that it works.
That it works, but that's not going to catch that.
Yeah.
That wouldn't mean it's going to still compile and be cool.
And another cool thing that we'll talk about in a future episode is like this thing is actually going to write files to disk. It's going to take notes basically. And you can see that file name of app data directory, that file system, that's actually coming from .NET MAUI. .NET MAUI has these APIs that are already abstracted for you. So file system, connectivity, geolocation, stuff like that are all built in. So it's kind of using this. But notice we're using path. And then if you scroll down the bottom, if we also note that down here, we're just using system.io, good old system.io, file.write all text, file.exist, file.delete. And if we run this on iOS, Android, Mac, Windows, the runtime, the .NET runtime knows how to speak to those operating systems. So it's going to automatically check all those things for us, which is really, really nice. Boom.
All right. Cool. You did a very good job talking through that, James. All right. Build successful.
Yeah.
All right. Let's try it. I'm going to try building or running
on your
Mac.
You could probably see the file on your Mac if you put a breakpoint as well.
Yeah.
It'd be real. Right. It'd actually happen.
Come on. Let's see. We built it. Should be happy.
Then we made a code change. It's building again.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Cool.
I know. But anyways.
Let's see if there's any other questions in the chat as it goes. I succeeded. That's good. Yeah, everything's looking good. Someone was asking if you can have multiple click handlers in the XAML. You can't. So just one click handler, for example, here.
Yep.
Cool.
All right.
Hello, learn live. Cool. Save.
Here we go.
What's that file?
Our file name. It's going to be stored in the notes.txt in the library. I'll go get that in a sec.
Oh, cool. You can actually, yeah, there you go. You can actually Control-Shift-G. Did you know you can do that?
I did know.
Yeah.
And
that's a fun fact.
And you get to see all of everything.
Or is it Command-Shift-G?
I think it might be Command. Yeah.
Command-Shift-G.
Let's see. Let's see.
I like how we're just putting it right in the library.
I know.
I don't know if that's ideal, but I would the recommended path here. This is bad practice. The recommended path would be that you put it into like an app folder. I guess like create a folder inside there. But oh, actually, this will be different if you run it in the App Store. It'll actually put it in your app container. This is just running on there as well. Did you find it? I have faith in you.
Library msoakup.
Yeah.
All right, I can bring it back on this. Now we're not going to see anything.
It's just going to create a text file in there. Perfect.
Yeah.
Run it.
Boom. All right. It ran. msoakup. Where are we? M. Library. Macintosh HD. Why isn't it in there? Who knows?
It's probably in somewhere else.
Yeah, not the base library?
No, it'd be under users. msoakup. Right? Library.
Where would it be? L. I don't know.
Well, if you do Command-Shift-G, does that do anything? Oh, and then you got to do /users. No, not library. It was users first.
All right.
There you go. / msoakup. Nope. / msoakup. I like how I remembered it. There you go. / library.
All
Perfect.
right.
Enter. There you go. Yeah, you're welcome.
There we go.
Then it should be in there.
The space right in the
notes.
Notes. Did I miss it? Yeah. Where?
It's alphabetized.
N.
There it is. Yay!
Yay! Hello,
Wow,
learn live.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yes. All right. Cool.
We did.
It works. It works.
Amazing.
Everything works. Now let's see. Let's see if hot reload is working. Let's press our luck. Press it. Let's see.
Set that background color to pink.
All right. Which one? Overall?
All of them. I don't know. Yeah, overall. There you go. Color. Yeah. Pink. Perfect.
Should look like that color. Hey, how about that? Everything is working right now.
So there's that. Now, we also showed on Windows. I don't think it's there on Mac yet, but there's a live preview that kind of can dock your app inside of it. But again, if you had the app side by side running, there you go. And you can add controls, remove controls. You could have just built it all live. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Awesome. All right. We got 25 minutes left. What's next?
25 minutes. All right. Here we go. Let's start this back up.
Time copping it.
All right. So we created our first XAML page. All right. Let's talk about markup extensions. We can use that to really make our class a little bit better. Add stuff to it, right? So we have this. Let's say we have our font size. We want to just not hard code our font size in. Let's get it from the running application somehow. That 28 might change. So we want to change it depending on the condition of the app it happens to be in. And so what you can do is actually implement a class or create a class that implements markup extension, which means that you will have to implement provide value. All right. So what does that look like? So here's our class, right? Main page. We're calling initialize component because we remembered to do that.
Nice.
And then this global font size extension, we're just returning my page.font size. As long as this thing is a constant or a static, that gets out to 28. So this isn't the best super example. It's always returning 28, but this global font size extension always would return. We can use this anywhere.
Yeah.
And so like if we needed to return, like if it's 28 when the app has been opened, I don't know, for 20 seconds and 34 when it's been open for, I don't know. Anyways, you can change that. It can be changed. All right. And so here's how you would use it. Look at this right down here for my code. It's that custom namespace being brought in. And then you do custom namespace global font size.
So that's a way of basically saying, hey, if you need something that is going to change based on different conditions, X, Y, Z, you could do that. And that's one way of doing it. This is sort of a very convoluted way, I would say, in general.
Yeah.
We would, for these properties, we could do them in resource dictionaries and things like that. But I'd also say if you look up top, right, in general, these level 1s and grid 0s, like those are also these markup extension type of things. And that's what they're doing basically in general. Yeah.
Yep.
So the idea is exposing a property, exposing something that will then be accessible. So you could say like, those colors, for example, are markup extensions.
Yeah. Cool. And right here, it's unlikely that you would ever do this, but you can, and we show you how. All right, so let's talk. Static extension. Oh, okay. So the purpose of custom markups extensions may enable you to handle the complex situation that a static can handle. So static is like one time only, right? So like a resource dictionary, a lot of times, if it's not a dynamic resource dictionaries, you're only going to be pulling one simple value all the time. Like if you make a resource dictionary of a color red, which we'll show you probably in the next episode when we talk about styles, you're only going to get red. But if it needs to change ever, we can start using the static extensions to do that.
I feel like I want to rewrite this part of the learn module. So the good part about doing this learn module is that we get to learn and say, okay, now that we helped write it, Now
Yeah.
that we've gone through it ourselves, like, do we really like this part? Maybe
Yep.
not.
No.
Anyways.
All right. So which markup extension allows you to set a XAML property to a static value that's
Mm.
defined in a code behind class?
There's a key indicator, right? Which is this is a static resource that we define in some magical class that we extended it. So, ooh, interesting. It's static value.
Yeah, I kind of should be worded better, right? And so we're going to give
Static.
everybody, give them a
Free
break.
pass on that one.
It's static.
Yeah.
Yeah, static resource and static. That's too confusing. It's not binding, that's for sure.
No.
All right,
Ooh,
this
here we
one's a
go. This
little
is
bit
better.
easier. All right, which interface would you use if you wanted to create a custom markup extension?
I think in general, so there's, if I remember from the code, the value converter we already talked about previously, so it can't be that. And markup seems as if it would be too easy. But if I
Yeah.
look at the learn module and scroll down, I can see that we implemented an interface called iMarkup extension. I think that's how it is. Boom.
Mm-hmm. There you
Boom.
go.
Amazing.
All right. So James, did you know that you can do platform specific things in XAML? Like if it was
Amazing.
running on iOS, it would be one thing, Android, another.
Cool.
So let's say we had a padding property and it's like 30, 60, 30, 30, as you were talking about, right? So it has that little padding around the sides, but we wanted to change it depending on which platform it was running on. And so we would use on platform to do that with. And this is what it would look like. So you have the vertical stack layout dot padding, and then you would do on platform. And now you're going to tell it, you know what, I'm going to send it in a thickness. So you use the type arguments, and it's an X dot. So it's coming from the Microsoft XAML namespace. And then you do on platform equals iOS, and then you set it, its value. And then you could do on platform equals to Android or WinUI, and you can set it to be different values if you wanted. So yeah, super cool. So now this is actually you're specifying what exactly you want it to be on which platform.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And so it is a generic, so you have to, use the type arguments to make sure it knows that type arguments right before that first on platform. So it knows what to expect when it's getting its values.
Fantastic. Nice.
Cool. All right. So which markup extension would you use to detect the platform that the app is running on so you can send it specific values? This should be easy.
Well, it's a markup extension. So device info is the class behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So it must be on platform.
Got her.
Boom. Fantastic.
All right. So what's the purpose of type arguments for the on-platform extension? So does it let you specify the type parameter for the extension and ensures the correct type of extension is created? Or does it specify the type of the platform? So does it specify like iOS or Android? Or does it enable you to specify the property be set with a specific platform-specific value? So does it specify the type parameter for the extension and ensures that the correct type of the extension is created?
Well,
So
we had the on platform, which had like iOS, Android, but the type arguments, I assuming, is an argument for the type that it is.
my guess here is the type arguments is for what you want to of the property that you're setting.
Got it.
Yeah.
We have a split vote between all of them. So let's see what it is. Hey, okay. So type arguments is saying, hey, this is type of color, this is type of string XYZ. So yeah. Cool.
One more right here, type arguments. So our thickness of our padding properties of thickness. So we're saying, you know what, expect a thickness value coming into this.
Did we show the simplified markup? That's
we
inside
didn't, but we're going to show it in the in the
thing.
exercise.
Because this is the verbose way of doing it, but there's a much
Yeah.
easier way of doing it. So let's get to that because we got 15 minutes left on my gauge.
All right. All right. So let's do an exercise.
That's the last exercise. So that's good.
Yeah. All right. So if you're following along, we are going to scroll all the way up, and it's going to be exercise. Add behavior to your XAML page. All right. Oops. So the first thing is we want to do a static resource. And so what we can do in order to do that is do add a new class. And we're going to call the new class, let's call it shared resources. All right. And what we'll do here is this. We're going to make a
you want to put it inside the class.
Oh, I always do that. So this is why, we're going to go like this now.
There you go.
So I don't mess things up and I can easily see.
There you go.
Yeah.
So the goal here will be to sort of, we're hard coding a bunch of colors. Can we expose that easily in a way for all the font colors, right? From C# code behind. And we will talk about how to do this in XAML in the future. But let's say you wanted to have this, you wanted to have like your own style sheet, basically. You can do this in C# code behind, or you can do it in XAML, which we'll talk about in the future Learn Labs.
Yep. All right.
Cool.
So we have that. And then the next thing we want to do is
a background color.
Yeah, we're going to do a background color. Pretty much the same thing. We have the font color. We want to have a background color. Cool. So really, same deal, just different fields. And we're going to open up main page.xaml. All right, scroll all the way up to the top. And then we're going to add in a custom namespace.
So it's because we're going to basically expose that class that you just created, that namespace, anything in that notes namespace into it. So we just type in notes, that should show up. Look at that. Boom.
There it is.
Amazing.
And it does, puts that CLR namespace in front of it for us, and we're all good to go.
Love it.
And then, so I'm going to take this pink out so we can actually see what happened, because I'm not sure what colors we actually created back there, because they were all in RGB.
Yeah.
And so what I can do here is just go down to, let's just pick a label. We'll pick this label right here, and we'll just say font color or color equals, and then it's going to be X static like that. And then we're going to say member equals shared resources coming from the notes dot font color.
That's cool. We're exposing these font colors. We can kind of expose anything, right? And this is a way of having it, if you wanted to share these across the entire app and have a style sheet and then update them as they go and do a bunch of things as well. I guess these are static, so they don't change, but you have this style sheet and things. And this is just one example of colors, but it could be anything for any of your properties, basically.
Yeah. And so I will copy from here and just go down to a button. And with this button, we'll just say, in quotations, you know what, same thing, X static member equals notes, shared resources, background color.
Cool.
So cool. And then I won't run it quite yet, but what we're going to do is we're going to add some platform specific stuff. And for the editor, we'll make it bigger or smaller, depending on what we're running on.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And so I'm going to use the height request. Actually, I already have it in there.
Oh, nice.
So instead of using all the like on platform stuff with the, let's do the less verbose version and do the curly brackets, and then I can do on platform like that. And then you see everything shows up. And so what I'll say is iOS equals 500, Android equals 100. And you can see I have other ones in here like Mac Catalyst, which I'm actually running on. Say that's equal to 300. And then if I want to do a
default or something.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We'll do a default, which is just, say, 150.
Yeah,
Where
your
would that
default
default?
equals.
Oh, default equals. Yeah.
Yep.
AULT equals.
Boom.
There we go.
So that's kind of nice if you're like, oh, only on Mac do this, but everyone else do this, right?
Yeah.
So this is cool. You can actually do on platform, but I'll also tell everyone that there's another one which is called on idiom. And that's really cool because on idiom lets you say if I'm on desktop or I'm on phone or I'm on tablet, do something specific as well. So you can only not only just do on platform, you can do on idiom as well. And you can do those in the code behind too. So, which we'll talk about in the future as well. So it's kind of cool.
All right, here we go. We built it. We can see notes here is purple. Our save button is like a yellow.
Yellow.
And yeah, and if I was running on iOS, the save button, and we can see this is really big now.
Yeah.
As well. So yeah. Cool.
There you go.
All right, so we'll switch back over to the slides. And we'll hit our summary.
Well, we did it in the amount of time that we needed to.
I know.
That's so cool.
So, yeah. So we saw some benefits of using XAML for the UI versus C#. I like it. I like the way it looks. I think it's a little less verbose. What I really like is I can tell just by looking at it what the UI is going to look like. And we created a UI in XAML. And we added some platform specifics to it. We also added a little bit of behavior to it by grabbing a static resource. And how about that? A little tricky how the animations came up. We set some platform specific values, and then we created some markup extensions with it too. And you know what, James? We forgot to mention at the beginning. I'm pretty sure we forgot it. We have a Cloud Skills Challenge going as well. Yeah, if Laurent could put that the AKA for it. I think it's Maui, aka MS/Maui/Cloud Challenge. Totally. Yeah. You can go through this module, the one before it, all 7 modules, the next 5 too. And you know what you get, James, if you complete all 5 of them before September 30th?
Sweet stickers.
Sweet stickers. Actually, only the first 500 folks who do complete all 5 of them get it. And I think there's like 350 who have completed so far. I have to check. There's still time, though. That's the point. There's still time. And as long as the United States Postal Service can deliver to you, which they deliver outside the United States, so just don't think just because you don't live in the U.S. you can't get them. As long as they can deliver, though, you can get some stickers finished before September 30th, 11:59 p.m. Pacific time.
You're totally good to go. In fact, somebody just tweeted at me today that they just got their stickers in Norway. So boom.
Sweet. Nice. Yeah. There you have it. So yeah, learn more about these topics at this URL. And I think that's same URL.
Probably what is there any other any slides in here? What else we got in here? Oh, let's see if is there any other questions in the chat. We still got a few minutes, which is great.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions, Laurent? Are you emceeing this thing? It's very dark in your house.
Hey everyone, yeah, it's night, it's like 8:30, and you see that's why I didn't want to say 3 hours with you all, even though I love you too, Anyway, no questions in the chat. I think we had really good discussions. Katie managed most of them, I managed a few, and you did manage a few as well.
Cool.
However, there is a great other opportunity for everybody to connect with us right now, right? And this is because we have what we call continue the conversation, and this is actually a Teams meeting, and hopefully the link will work immediately this time. Last time we had a little bit of trouble, and we know why, by the way, so this is great. So Chloe absolutely knows why. So this time it should work just fine. So I'm going to pop this link in the chat as well. We are not there quite yet, but we are going to move there very soon. So immediately as soon as we are done here, so I'm putting the link in the chat here. And there we will have basically a Teams meeting with you, James, you, Matt, and we are also going to have Katie who's joining. Everybody is free. It's unscripted, right? So it's free for all. Everybody can just switch their webcam on, switch their microphone on, ask questions, comment, say hi, just ask James about his favorite brand of coffee or whatever, or we can just stay focused on Maui. I mean, that works too. So if you want to join us there, it would be with great pleasure that we will welcome you there. And yeah, that's about it for me.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to scroll around, see if we see anything else. But yeah, I think Patrick was asking in the chat, when was .NET MAUI first released? It was released at Build back in May into GA. I mean, we had many previews for over a year. But yeah, it's been generally available since May. And it ships with .NET. So in November, a new version of .NET ships. .NET 7 will be the next one. We're on .NET 6 right now, which means .NET MAUI version 7. No, I'm just kidding.
What do you
for
call it
.NET
though?
7.
It has to be .NET MAUI for .NET 7.
Yeah, I think so.
.NET MAUI is .NET. So
is .NET. It's in the box. Yeah.
Yep.
Aman wants to know how you can get a job. Go to careers.microsoft.com. That's where all the jobs are listed.
They are.
There's also internship programs too, if you're like a student, which are pretty fantastic. Katie did the internship program as well, and then she joined my team, which is amazing. Katie's rad. So we're gonna go hang out with Katie over there. Is that it?
All right.
We'll close it.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the session today, and we'll see you on the Teams meeting in a few. And next week, we have another show next week, right?
Yes.
We're gonna.
Perfect.
We're gonna do.
Yeah, we're gonna
All right.
customize. We're gonna customize with XAML. We're gonna make our app beautiful.
Oh, perfect.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. Cool. See you there. Bye bye.